Hello, everyone. Welcome to SeniorOpedia, the everything how-to guide for seniors and caregivers. My name is Viraf Baliwalla. I'll be your host for today's episode. When I take a look outside my window right now, what I see is snow-covered rooftops, streets, yards. I can feel the chill in the air from winter. It's cold. I don't know about you guys, but I am a sand, sun, and surf type of person, and I always have fantasies about retiring someday in a warm climate all year long. Now, that brings me to our guest today, Matt Ashby. He's a real estate agent in Mexico in the Cancun, Playa del Carmen, and Tulum area. Welcome, Matt. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me, Raf. And I'm doing fantastic. And as you can probably tell behind me, no snow on the roofs or anything, and just beautiful weather here.
What's the temperature like there today?
So today it's a little cooler. It's about 27 degrees, and it kind of ranges between 26 to 32 degrees, give or take, for most of the year. In the summer months, it gets a little warmer, but it's perfect weather right now for where I came from, which had winters and it was cold.
And so, why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory here?
Sure. So originally, I'm from just outside of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And about 7 years ago, I got sick and tired of the cold weather. And so we came down here. My wife and I, we had a daughter at the time, came down for 1 month and just to see and just to enjoy, not an all inclusive vacation, but to come for an extended period of time. That 1 month led us to extending another month and extending a third month. And see, by the third month, we were pretty much living here. We were looking into schools, we were doing grocery shopping, we were going a lot further out from when we had first arrived, kind of like staying in our bubble, and met a lot of amazing people down here. So we flew back to Canada. By then, the snow was starting to melt. And within that same 7 days, my wife and I made the decision that we were going to relocate down to the Riviera Maya and figure it out. And so we've been here ever since. And my daughter speaks three languages. My son was born here, just turned 1 year old. And some say it's kind of like living the dream.
Wow. So you aren't just a real estate agent down there, you're actually one of the people who lived out that fantasy.
Yeah, I think deep down, it's always something that was in the back of the mind. Beaches, maybe some margaritas, sunshine year round. And most of our time here prior to moving here was coming down for a vacation for 1 week or 10 days, and either at a resort or, an Airbnb, checking out the different areas. And my wife and I love traveling. And yeah, it kind of just, hit us when we were down here for an extended period of time. And we met so many people from around the world, lots of Americans, lots of Canadians, lots of Europeans, everybody getting along and just enjoying, everything that Mexico has to offer.
And so all these people that you met, was that really the expat community or was that people who were on vacation and just spending a week or two there?
Great question. So we initially met expats who had lived here for 5 years, 8 years, some 20 years. And we got to learn just a lot about how to live here, not how to vacation here, right? The secret beaches, little tips and tricks here and there, where to get the best tacos and not pay 5 times the price, and how to explore outside of the touristy area. Some of our expat friends, their parents have now moved down here to retire. So we go over there for barbecues and swims and get the kids together. And it's literally like life back in Canada, but much cheaper and much better weather for most of the year.
Is that cheaper part of it still the case? I mean, the prices must be going up a fair bit because it's becoming more and more popular and a common thing to do is to retire someplace else.
Yeah, even when we went back to Canada for Christmas, things were super expensive. We went out in Canada. Everything has gone up. We went out for a dinner. I think there's five or six of us, and it wasn't anything fancy, and it was well over $150, and I just couldn't believe it. So down here, I kind of call it like Vegas in the sense where you can go to Vegas and go get $100 or $1,000 bottles of wine and just go absolutely crazy, or you can go and enjoy your time, be mindful of your expenses, and really find some good deals. Now, if you're going to only stay on, say, Fifth Ave in Playa del Carmen, where the cruise ships are coming in, there's a lot of Airbnbs there, it's mainly short term rental. Yeah, it can be pretty expensive, if not equivalent to similar prices you would find back in the US and Canada. It's when you make the decision that, hey, I want to learn more, and you start finding out these tips and tricks. Now, we don't go to Fifth Ave unless we're, going out for a nice dinner and we want to just kind
Mm.
of be in the downtown city area. I'll give you a prime example. We go to fruterias. In these fruterias, they have all your fruits and vegetables. It is handpicked, and it's some of the freshest fruit that you would have. And it's a fraction of the price at the grocery store down on Fifth. Same thing with our meats, all of our steaks, our chickens. We actually have a ranch that delivers it right to our door, fraction of the price. Now, I wouldn't say fraction of the price, but it's definitely cheaper, but the quality is a lot better. And so you start learning these things, and it can become very, very reasonable compared to daily life that we had in Canada. We find that we're spending a lot less down here, and we're also eating healthier. I know this sounds kind of weird, but we're definitely eating healthier because there's not really a drive-through culture here. You can't just go through drive-throughs here and there and get something quick and eat it, and it's not that great for you. Here, it's more about taking your time, and it's a slower pace of life, and going to restaurants and not trying to get kicked out so they can turn over a table. Like, you have to ask for the bill, right? Rather than them drop it as soon as you're done your, dessert. So we find that we eat a lot healthier. It can be extremely affordable. But if you're in the tourist area or you're going out to restaurants every single night, it'll be expensive.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth to Cancun and Playa del Carmen for the last 30 years, maybe spending one vacation or even two vacations per year with my friends as well as with my wife and family. And, I love that whole area. Recently, though, the prices have really jumped up in the tourist sections, right? Of course, I'm going into the tourist section, so I'm not finding these little out of the way places.
Yeah. The other thing to also keep in mind is that the peso versus the dollar, right? So peso swayed between 20 and 30% difference. It used to be around 21 pesos per US dollar. Now I think we're hovering around 17. So that's a pretty big swing if you're converting US dollars to pesos, which most machines will convert it into pesos. So that's also part of the reason. Obviously, there's other factors, inflation, and a few other things taking place. But again, what we've seen on the non-touristy side, like my friend's parents who live down here, they rarely go down to Fifth Ave, even though they have a community there. They'll go have a few drinks and live music and all of that. But they're cooking at home. They're living here, right? And so I think there's something to be said about living here and being a tourist are two totally different price points if you're looking to budget.
Okay. And so would you say that the cost of living, the inflation and everything else has gone up a fair bit in the non-tourist areas as well? Or has it been pretty stable other than the currency exchange?
It's been pretty stable, to be honest. Again, I keep going back to the tourist area, which kind of could be a bunch of different things. I'll give you a good example. There's a park here called Xcaret. It's beautiful, has beaches and restaurants. You're
Oh,
obviously
wow. Yeah.
familiar with it. So, as a resident down here, like I'm a permanent resident, but as a temporary residency resident or permanent resident, that park to enter for the day is around 28 or 2,400 pesos. I think it's $124 US for the day. As a resident here, you can go 365 days a year from first thing in the morning to the night show way out later on is 3,500 pesos, about $180 for the year. So me, my wife, my daughter, my assistant all have passes, and we go there not only to work but to eat. And even there, at the restaurants, you get 20% discount. Again, that's a massive thing where if you went there as a tourist and you didn't know any better, you would think, "Wow, this is really expensive. I'd only come here maybe once a year or a couple times a year." Where we go 4 or 5 times a month at least.
Wow, that much.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the young kids, they love it. They go in the ocean. There's all the animals. There's excursions, and they really enjoy it.
Did you have to go through a huge bureaucracy, red tape sort of situation to do that move down there?
Yeah, it didn't happen like that. Like, yes, we made the decision mentally, but the following year after that first vacation, we came down for 6 months. We worked on getting our residency. They have made it a little tighter and harder to get. I think between COVID and some political stuff, I think there's a lot more applications coming in, but they want to know that you can self sustain yourself. So typically, you have to have a certain average income or assets in the bank, and there's a process. But from what I've seen, it can take a few months, but it's not like you do it on your own. You would get an immigration lawyer, and they're not expensive because it's the same repetitive kind of situation for people applying. But no red tape, no issues with the Canadian government to have full permanent residency here. But that residency card does give you a lot of perks when you spend at least 6 months of the year down here.
That's one of the things, this whole moving the red tape, the government issues and whatnot, those are the things that are barriers for North Americans, both Canada and the US, in terms of our mindset, right? It's intimidating to think about all those things that have to get done, number one, and is it even permissible to do that? How would I go about doing it, right?
No, I agree. They can be a lot, right? If you think about it, it could be any move to any other country. What is nice about down here is that because there are so many expats, there's so many services available to help in that transition. Whether it takes a couple years, whether you're ready to go, there's concierge services that do immigration and help getting a car or driver's license, registering your car, paying any taxes for whatever reason, buying real estate and that whole process. And everybody here in that service sector to make a whole transition possible all speak English. So a lot of people's biggest fear, even one of ours coming down, was how could we possibly do this if we don't speak the language? Now I can speak a little bit, I can get by, but here when it comes to real estate, to immigration, to restaurants, to excursions, it's tourism focused, and so everybody here pretty well speaks English.
Okay. Now, I know whenever I've gone down, there's lots of places, especially in that tourist zone, et cetera, where the people don't speak English, certainly not well. But what I'm hearing you saying is that you figure it out as you go along. And those that really apply themselves in that sort of business, they do speak English. So you don't really have as much of a fear factor to go by.
No, exactly. Like obviously there are people for your essentials to make a transition down here, you're going to have people that speak English and you'll find that there's a huge sense of community down here within the expats that we all help each other out. There's Facebook groups, there's WhatsApp groups, there's a ton of different resources available because it's not like you're going into an island that you're going to be the only person from a different country there. You're coming to an area that has resorts that is used to tourists coming day in and day out, right?
So, what would you say was the hardest thing that you went through when you made this move?
I think the hardest part of making a transition down here was probably letting go of the stuff we had back in Canada. We initially thought that maybe the family would maybe go away, especially because we have kids, right? So that was definitely part of it. But what we found was lots of friends and family come down and visit us. And then I think the main thing is getting your residency because once we got through that hurdle, it was kind of not smooth sailing, but it made our lives a lot easier. We met a lot of people, we got into the community and integrated with so many different people here that were able and willing to help that it really made it so much easier. And we didn't feel like we were doing it alone.
And of course, you're a real estate agent down there, so that means you've started your own business as well.
Yeah, so if your viewership would like to start a business down here, they're absolutely able to. With your residency and CURP, you can get your tax ID down here. And basically, if you're self employed or do commissionable income activities, you can work down here. So a lot of expats will work remotely or through their computer. But if you want to work at a restaurant or something like that, then you would need a visa and be sponsored, and it's a whole other process.
So as long as the income is coming from another source, whether it's a pension or whether it's savings or a job that you hold in a different country, there's no issues. You don't need to have that social security number, your social insurance number, or do you need that once you migrate?
No, so if you want to be down here 6 months of the year and rent, you don't need anything really. It's handy to have that for the discounts at golf courses or resorts. We'll give discounts for residents. Escret was a great example, restaurants. But if you're just down here and you're looking to buy something and you buy something, you're down here for 6 months or fully relocating, you still need to register with SAT down here, which is basically the IRS or CRA of Mexico. You don't have to declare anything. It's just that you have to be registered if you're an owner in case you ever do get rental income coming in. That does need to be reported. But other than that, no, you don't. We have so many of our clients who have pensions, who work for the government, that are coming in. They're either bringing it down here to their bank account, or they're just using their debit cards or Visa cards, wherever it might be, and pulling out a little bit of money. So there's multiple different ways to access funds down here, especially if you're retired.
What if you're not ready to retire yet, but you want to, let's say, buy an Airbnb and kind of rent it out or whatever? Do you still need that tax number?
Yeah, you do. If you're going to be producing income down here, you do need to have a tax ID to report. You also need an Airbnb license as well that they're starting to really roll out, mainly for safety of people coming to visit. It is an older city and newer city, so there's some older Airbnbs, and the government wants to make sure any guests coming down are in safe housing. But yeah, you definitely need to register once you've closed on a property.
After you close on a
Oh, yeah,
property.
it's after you close and only if you actually are reporting income. So if you rent it out on Airbnb through a property manager, the property manager will ask for your ID. Now, there are certain cases that you're supposed to have it, but sometimes the property manager will use the company's ID as well, or identification, and then obviously pay you your amount, and they say you do what you want with it. But properly speaking, you're supposed to have an ID, whether you make money or not. It's always good to have. If you want to lease a car, finance a car, if you're looking to do certain things, they're going to ask for that. You can't just do that using a US or Canadian or any other passport. You do need to be registered in Mexico to get that stuff.
Okay, I'm sure that there's a nominal cost to it, but probably not a whole heck of a lot.
Oh, the tax ID is free. You
Oh,
just have to
wow, okay.
register it. You might have to pay if you don't want to do it yourself. Yeah, it'd be $100 or something.
From the government, that's free. There's no
Yeah,
charges.
yeah. Hard to believe. And another one too is property taxes, right? Like property taxes down here, if you were to buy something, say for 300,000, would be around 250 to $300 for the year, right? So there are some really good incentives that way.
Now, do you have to cut ties with your original country, your country of origin, so Canada or the US? Do you have to cut your ties and everything here to sort of avoid being taxed in both countries?
No, so what happens is if you're on a pension or something like that, you will be taxed on that, as everybody knows, in your home country. Generally speaking, almost all the time, the taxes in the US and Canada are much higher than Mexico, anyways, and there's a tax treaty between both of them. So you can't get double taxed even if you bring that income down. Now, if you're making money in Mexico, both the US and Canada tax global income. So we've exited that. So we don't get taxed in Canada or the US, obviously. But we had to, yes, break ties to get out of being taxed globally. So we had to sell our primary home. I couldn't join a golf course. There was a few different things that the accountant made me or advised me and the lawyer advised me to
Close
do.
bank accounts, all those kinds of
Oh
things.
no, I still have bank accounts. I still have rental properties and investments and all that stuff in Canada that if I ever cash out would be taxed by Canada. But now moving
Okay.
forward, any income that I make outside of Canada is now not taxed by Canada, but taxed by the country that I'm generating the income from.
Just as a disclaimer, I want to make sure that everybody realizes, all of our viewers, that whatever Matt says and whatever I say on this call, we're not providing legal advice or accounting advice. You should make sure that you speak to your professionals, the appropriate professionals, about those sort of things. These are just some of our opinions and or experiences that we've had. So just want to be safe on our end. Nobody can't come back to us and say, well, you said,
Yeah,
Matt said this.
I appreciate that. And it's very, very true. And if you need that legal advice down here, you could always reach out and I'd be happy to connect you with our trusted lawyers and accountants. It's a case by case situation for sure.
But it's one great thing to have somebody that has already made that transition, that is making those connections for you. Because, if you don't know anyone else that's done this, then it's much more intimidating. But if you have somebody else who's kind of led the path and can help navigate some of those challenges that they faced, but are now happy to share, it just makes life so much easier and so much better.
Yeah, I would say even though we love wanting to come down here and make a transition, if it wasn't for the people that we met down here, it would have been 1,000 times more difficult. And
Right.
I have to say too, because especially with a lot of my clients that are coming down and buying within the Riviera Maya, what we offer is not just selling the real estate. A lot of my clients are, how do you set up your hydro, your water, residency, who is the best lawyer to talk to, all of these things. So it's kind of a championship team that we created and built for our US and Canadian and European clients. And it goes way past the sale, I guess you could say. And that's a concierge service that we just provide complimentary to our clients, because we don't want them to just close on something and then be like, oh, Matt, what do I do? Because we're probably one of the only people that they actually know so far and have
Yeah.
learned from. And so we do provide that service to help people make the connections to the right people.
Well, one of the other things that people are intimidated about making a big move to a different country like that is they don't know the area, they don't know how safe it is, and things like that. And of course, we just recently heard about this cartel leader being killed in the Jalisco area, Puerto Vallarta area, and of course, the riots and things like that that they're talking about. So maybe you can touch base on that and how it's affected you in your area.
Great point. And unfortunately, that demonstration and what took place, we watched some of the Canadian news here through down here. And in my personal opinion, it was really blown out of proportion in my view. And we've seen people post reels and stories and YouTube videos of people in Puerto Vallarta on Tuesday or Wednesday, a few days after this all happened, going, no, everything's got back to normal. Our flights got delayed. Yes, but the staff have been amazing. And there was even one that went viral that said she got asked by a news story, I'm not going to name what. She told them what was going on, and they completely revamped it to Americans trapped and held hostage, and there's gunfire everywhere, almost like making it like a war zone, which isn't what happened. Here in Playa del Carmen, we had a few things go on. Not one civilian was injured, not one tourist was injured. It was between the federal government and the organized crime. And guess what, guys? Everywhere you are, there is organized crime in some capacity.
You hear about it every day, whether it's shootings or whatever. We don't escape it here in our home country.
Exactly. Now, I have to say, we went out the day after. Nothing was going on. Life was normal. In fact, on my social media, I did a tour around Playa del Carmen. I went to a resort and I showed, and it was packed. It was business as usual. And with my wife and my kids here, I would never put them in a situation that would be making them dangerous. And if we ever felt in danger or scared in any capacity, we wouldn't be here. We've been here for years and years and years. And I think that you have to remember that tourism is super important here, just like any other country or area that tourism is important. And so I just have to say, don't believe everything you kind of read on the news. Because I'll tell you, if I was sitting on a couch in Canada in the snow watching the news, I would have probably the same opinion as a lot of other people, thinking, wow, I'm never going to Mexico. That looks
Yeah.
crazy. Yet I'm
Well, and
here.
all the government advisories as well are, oh, don't go down there, etc. They had flights that were turning around and coming back. They were halfway there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they turned these flights around from what I understood.
Yeah, well, during when it actually happened and took place, I don't think anybody could have known what was going to happen next or what was going to take place. But what ended up happening was no civilians were hurt, no tourists were hurt. They were kind of inconvenienced by it. But there was even a situation, I don't want to get too deep into it, where if they wanted to do anything, they could have. And at the end of the day, that's not what they want. They don't want headlines, oh my goodness, this happened and that happened, because tourism, it runs the economy. And I feel so bad for the 99.9% of the amazing locals here who have families, who work hard, who provide great service that we can all enjoy ourselves here, and they all of a sudden sometimes get grouped in because they're in Mexico, and it's just not fair to them. And some of my best friends are from here and live here. We're born here, and they say the same thing. It's just a kind of a constant battle, but that's all done with. And you can take a look on social media. Just be very careful what you see online, because AI has gotten, in my opinion, out of control. And there was things I saw, I shot a reel I was telling you about earlier that had over 600,000 views, and it was a restaurant that I frequent that was shown burned down. I go there and there's people eating and everything is normal. and I took a video of it, and people shared it, and we're in agreement that you can't believe everything you see on the news.
Absolutely. My wife has a past work colleague that actually has a condo or a place, a home in Puerto Vallarta. And so she touched base with her just as we started to hear about all this. And she said, you know what, it's all blown out of proportion. Nothing is happening like that here at all. And I remember when the SARS epidemic came out and it was all over the news and whatnot. And my brother in law was in Russia at the time. And so his family called us and said, are you guys okay? We see people dying in the streets and whatnot for the newscast. And we're like, what? We don't see or hear anything like that. That's not actually what's happening.
Yeah.
And so definitely media is playing it up because that's how you sell eyeballs. That's how you sell ads and whatnot.
Yeah. All
So,
I have to
and
say,
that's a shame.
it really is, because you're missing
All
out
right.
on so much. And I'm not here to change anybody's opinion, but I would say come down here, come rent for a month, meet the people, meet the other expats, enjoy what this area and the Riviera Maya has to offer. And then let's talk afterwards, because you're going to find that if you had a previous opinion about Mexico in general, which Mexico is not a city or state, it's a massive country. And
Yeah.
so we're generalizing Mexico and its whole population by an incident that occurred where nobody even was injured. You have to go to the areas that you want to go to and come see it, because nothing changed here. Yet the news was portraying that the Riviera Maya was basically on fire and it was a war zone. It just wasn't true.
Well, as I said, I love that. And as you know, I spent the month of January in Cozumel. Certainly quieter than Playa del Carmen area, but beautiful nonetheless, right? Not
Yeah.
to mention sort of warm weather all the way through. Everybody else was shoveling snow here.
Yeah, exactly. My dad's semi-retired. He's come down here and 6 months of the year type thing. And actually, one of the reasons I brought him down here was healthcare. That's a big issue that was taking place in Canada, and the wait times and just everything. So another big reason a lot of people are coming down here, sometimes just for cosmetic stuff or dentistry or exams, is that it's very, very reasonable and much cheaper than Canada or the US. And the private healthcare down here is fantastic.
But let's talk about that a little bit because, as you know, in Ontario, where you're from, people think that we have free health care, although it's paid through by our taxes, and our taxes have shot up because of that. How does it work? How does healthcare work in Mexico?
Yeah, so if you're coming for a month, you could probably just get it through a vendor like Manulife or Blue Cross or whatever it might be. If you're going to be coming for 6 months or relocating here for more than that in a year, you can get private health insurance down here. What we have is emergency medical. So if something major happens, break an arm or leg or something like that, then we're covered. But for day to day, if you need to go see a doctor or you need medication, it's very cheap. Doesn't mean the quality's not there, but one of the big and beautiful things about Mexico is a lot of the prescription drugs down here, they're heavily subsidized by the government, allowing that to make it extremely affordable. And so there's
Okay.
people that come down for all different health reasons to not only see specialists and get exams, but then be able to actually afford some of the medication. And we've actually had people move down here simply because of that.
So for any American, and I'm sure you've got a lot of American clients as well as Canadian clients, but for any American who's going down there, they're probably going to see a huge, huge benefit on a healthcare basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And their cost is very reasonable. In just looking at like 50 plus, a few $100s a month would be high end here. My son was born here. My daughter was born in Canada. Those two different experiences, if you had asked me 7 years ago which experience and what I would think would be better, I would have said Canada. Now it's completely changed. The staff were amazing. They were checking up on us all the time, and the cost was extremely reasonable. They didn't rush you out. You didn't feel like you were just another number to get you pushed out. And the other really unique thing here that I don't think is talked about a lot is the doctors will not just also recommend, say, antibiotics if you're sick and prescriptions, but they will recommend natural remedies as well and naturopathic remedies. And I thought that was really interesting the first time I heard that, because you wouldn't ever hear that happening in the US and Canada at a doctor's office.
They poo poo everything here that's not the prescription meds.
Exactly. So the healthcare here is fantastic. You can do YouTube videos on it, you can Google it. It's very well known that the healthcare here is amazing. But the initial thought is Mexico, oh, healthcare may not be that great yet. There, all of these hospitals and clinics and all these specialized things are actually meant for expats living here, right? We have the local system, which we get with our residency that we're a part of, but we would only be in the private healthcare sector. And a lot of the doctors are actually doctors from Turkey. There's somebody from the US, Canada, that are actually working down here to live the lifestyle, but also do what they love.
Well, travel tourism, as you know, has really escalated exponentially over the last few years as well. And Mexico is one of the places that seems to always be on the radar screen as far as a place to go.
Yeah, tourism has skyrocketed. We have a new international airport in Tulum. We have the one in Cozumel. We have one in Cancun, which is actually undergoing an expansion in place to handle the demand. We have the new Tren Maya, which is the Mayan train that goes up and down the coast. In fact, it's 1,600 kilometers long and goes through the Yucatan and a couple other states. So infrastructure is big. The government has really started, not started, has been for many years, pouring money to upgrade and make the infrastructure as best as it can for people that want to tour a little bit. See, when we first came here, Playa del Carmen, that's all we knew. Now we drove to Merida. We went to Valladolid. We've gone to Bacalar. We've gone to Tulum. We've gone up and down the coast and just having new experiences and doing fun things with no issue whatsoever. So these modes of transportation, especially with the train, allow for easier access to spots that most people probably wouldn't have went to before if they're not comfortable driving.
Do you find the hurricanes have any sort of major impact on you? Obviously, people keep living through it and surviving.
Yeah, no, we haven't had a major hurricane here in a long time. We could get some strong winds. If you're buying something right on the ocean, there's building code into what you need to have in place, but we don't have wooden homes here. Everything is concrete block. And so when there's an advisory for strong winds or hurricane might clip us, because normally it goes kind of up towards Florida, and obviously we might get clipped by some of the aftermath of it. It's kind of a bit of a party. Most people bunker down, grab something to drink, some food, and we throw a little party because these homes that are being built here, they don't go anywhere. You're gonna have some palm trees maybe down and some branches, but homes don't get affected.
I was caught there during Hurricane Wilma. In fact, not caught, but we were evacuated the night before Hurricane Wilma came through.
Oh, wow.
And that was quite a bit. But the next day's newspapers, of course, were showing people walking knee deep in floodwater.
Yeah, if we get heavy rains, that's one thing, but there is hurricane insurance as well for properties, and it's very affordable and super cheap. And mainly it's for if a branch comes through or hits a window or something like that, not
Right.
for like the house being completely wiped out. And Mexico is aware, especially with things that happen on the West Coast, how to be prepared if something major were to ever happen. With technology now, we know way in advance, right? And so if you wanted to go back, sometimes weeks in advance, if you want to head back or go home or go somewhere else, you have the ability to do so. You're not trapped. Even if you have to fly to Mexico City or the other coast within Mexico, you have the ability to do that with a ton of warning.
Can we talk about investing down there?
Sure.
You're in real estate. I think a lot of people who, if they're planning on retiring, maybe they might want to buy something ahead of time, maybe rent it out as an investment property to eventually move in there more often, full time sort of thing. What's the climate like over there?
Yeah, so unfortunately, there can be a lot of stuff online promising amazing returns. Don't listen to any of it. It's one of the first things I noticed. I bought investments here, I bought land down here. And one of the biggest things is location, especially if you're going to Airbnb it a little bit prior to moving in, whether it be a couple years, 5 years, 10 years. But make sure you know the area that you're going to want to be in prior to buying. And there's some amazing resale opportunities. A lot of people sometimes can push pre-construction. There's a handful of developers that I work in pre-construction that have very good quality projects in good locations. But there's so many great resale that actually have rental history that you can verify, right? So we do that a lot. A lot of our clients are 3 years, 5 years from retiring. They want to buy something that they can generate some income down here, use when they want, when they come down on vacation or come down to visit, use that property, but the rest of the time rent it out with a future plan of eventually just taking over and looking out, moving into it. And then it also depends. There's something for everybody. If you're somebody who wants to go to the nightlife every single night and Bahama Mama type thing, yeah, you downtown Playa, there's downtown Puerto Aventuras. There's a lot of bars that are meant for expats. I would say 50 plus that have live music and different bands and throwback nights, and it's just a blast. And everybody's having a great time. Some people just want to maybe have a tea or a margarita and sit by the beach and have peace and quiet. So you have Puerto Morelos, you have again areas of Puerto Aventuras. You might have people just want to be in the jungle and be close to amenities. That could be Tulum. So there's also gated communities, there's golf course communities, and it basically starts from 150,000 up to obviously millions of dollars if you're on the ocean. But there's some really, really good properties available, and people sell for all different types of reasons. I have one under contract right now, and the seller son is really good at soccer. He's been training in Europe, and it's costing them a fortune to be renting with the programs and all of that. So they're selling their investment property here and they're buying something in Spain. So a lot of times people go, why are they selling if it's doing so well? Well, sometimes if a stock does really well, you want to sell it when it's doing well. There's a million different reasons, but finding them, you can't do it online. There's no organized MLS here. So a lot of the top producers are in private WhatsApp groups and in different capacities. We share a lot of the listings together, and you kind of have to prove yourself to be able to get into these groups and be experienced enough. So a lot of what you see online, unfortunately, because it isn't a centralized MLS, you could have false information or what we call clickbait to get your information and work with you and try to bring you somewhere else. And it's a bit of a problem. So all my clients I work with, I start off with, what are your goals? Are you pure investment? Are you relocating? Are you going to be retiring soon? Are you a beach person? Do you have to be a minute from the beach or 2 minutes? Do you want to be a gated community? Are you a big golfer? Do you want really good amenities? You want something really hacienda style with limited amenities but super quiet? So we have that initial call first and then be able to determine from there a customized list of different options. And then they come down, we tour around, explain the different areas in detail, and then we go look at some real estate.
Fantastic. And that's why we need to have somebody like you in the field there so that you can guide us. Because otherwise we would totally be lost. We would be believing everything that we see online. And like you said, there's a lot of that that's fake news.
Don't fall for that. It's kind of what I did when I came down here, and we started after the few months looking at real estate. And I was a broker back in Canada for over 12 years, and we just ended up, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, nobody really has an answer. The financials aren't in place. I just want to see if this thing makes money or not. And I found it very difficult. So when we created our company, the whole thing was to bridge the gap that we had seen to really help people just have a smooth transition, be honest with them, be transparent, and be able to not necessarily just push real estate, but push the lifestyle that the real estate comes with. And I think that's why we've become one of the top producing teams in the Riviera Maya.
Someday, Matt, you're going to get a phone call from me saying, you know what, I'm either ready to retire or I want to get something pre-planning for retirement.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
you have my number.
So, anyways, where could somebody get a hold of you if they're going through the same sort of thoughts in their mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best is either a direct message. A lot of people use WhatsApp down here. So my phone number I can make available. Email Matt at elementsrealestategroup.com. And as well, if you want to learn a little bit more, doing a big push on more lifestyle stuff in the Riviera Maya. And my Instagram is Matt Ashby Sells Mexico, and you'll see some different real estate and whatnot there. But I'm doing some reels, I'm doing some footage and content that viewers have asked me to go do, from everything from how much is a haircut to where is the best cenote, what's a great resort to go to, how do day passes work at resorts, all these veterinarians. A lot of people have dogs and pets, and how does that work importing dogs and the cost of that. So you can find a lot of information on there, and you can also send me a direct message right on there as well.
So right through Instagram or
Yeah,
and
Instagram, my email, phone number, or our YouTube channel as well, which if you go on YouTube, elementsrealestategroup.com.
for the record, what is the phone number
My
that they can dial on WhatsApp or regular phone?
Sure. So it's +1 519 859 4229.
Okay, great. Thank you for that wealth of information. And like I said, someday expect a phone call from me because I like sand, sun, and surf.
Looking forward to it, and thanks for having me, Viraf.
If you like this episode, then subscribe, like, share, and most importantly, register for upcoming notifications at SeniorOpedia.com.